Good day and welcome to a new video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Heyo, today we're joined by Devon Cady-lee.
Yep. Nice.
Awesome. And you can check his work out on gorham.artstation.com. Or Devon Cady-lee on ArtStation. Awesome. So yeah, today I've got a painting going on. You can see page 7 of my book, the last little details on that page. So yeah, there's a bit of me adding like details and stuff like that, things like that. So yeah, anywho, can you tell me a bit about yourself, Devon?
Sure. What do you want to know?
You know, like where you kind of started your journey.
The journey. You mean
your
the art journey?
Yeah.
The art journey?
Yeah.
Let me see. I think everybody's been kind of starts drawing when they're a kid, and I just kind of kept on going, really. But I think when I decided to become, try and do this professionally, it was probably around junior high school, I think. I was actually trying to be a naturalist before that, playing with animals and things like that, and doing wildlife conservation and things like that, actually. But totally changed when I got into school and realized I was bad at it. So I thought, well, maybe I can just draw the animals instead. So that was kind of the start of it. And that was probably like when I was 12 or 13.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then eventually, I didn't do too well in school, but I kept my portfolio work up, and I was able to get into an art school eventually, and I was able to. From there, I got into games in the game industry. That's a really abbreviated version of everything that happened, of all that. But yeah.
Jeez, was it like as soon as you finished college, you were out in gaming, or did it take a little while after that?
So I took my first summer off, but my parents wanted to get me out of the house, so I was like, okay, I'll try and get a job. So I eventually started applying to as many jobs within my area, and at the time I was living in New York City, so I was playing in Boston and Providence, and I was able to land a job at Turbine Games, which is now part of Warner Brothers. They're a Warner Brothers company now, but at the time they were independent. Yeah, I don't know if any of your viewers know Lord of the Rings Online, but that was one of the games they did.
Okay.
Asheron's Call really early on.
Yeah.
So I was working on games like that, Dungeons and Dragons Online. So it was like a bunch of MMOs. So that's kind of where I got my feet wet, was doing MMOs. And actually I didn't start as a concept artist. I started as a texture artist. I was doing textures. I was painting textures on models that already existed. And I think they wanted me to eventually be a concept artist because my portfolio had a lot of that in it. But they were like, we don't have that position available for you right now, but just wait a bit and you'll get it. So I eventually kind of wormed my way in, and they started trusting me to do some concept artwork.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a good way to get my feet wet in the game industry, at least.
Awesome. What was in like the portfolio you showed them? Was it like mainly characters or?
Yeah, it was mostly characters. Well, if you go on DeviantArt, you can basically see my entire portfolio, even back to college, back to art school. So I mean, even in art school, it was pretty. I did a lot of character artwork in art school. I did a lot of comic book artwork as well, because I was kind of like in that vein of just doing entertainment, just entertainment design stuff. So I really liked comics, and I really liked designing things. I didn't quite know what that job was yet, because I actually didn't know that concept art. Like around the time that I was getting into concept art, that's when the concept art industry was really being like established as an industry. Like Massive Black was really taking off, and conceptart.org and things like that were starting to establish themselves. And before that, I wasn't really I didn't really know it was a position. So I didn't really know what I was actually applying for, but I was like, eventually I learned like what it was, and I was like, oh, this is what I want to do, um, which is pretty specific. I didn't really. Um, Before that, I was just like, well, I want to work on movies, or I want to work on games. I want to illustrate things for magazines, and I didn't really know what it was, but I eventually figured out that's what the position is, especially through comics. So, also when I realized it was very difficult to make a living doing comic books, I was like, well, maybe I could try doing something in another field of illustration, um, and so eventually I landed on concept artist, and once I landed on it, I was like full steam ahead, and I just wanted to do that. So, uh, now I consider myself more of a designer than a concept artist now, but um, I definitely that's definitely where my roots are.
Awesome.
Does that answer your question? I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, that answers my question. Um, yeah, I've pretty much studied design and stuff, and
Hmm.
I've done so much design. It's great to be able to design as well, not just paint. Um,
Hmm.
'Cause it feeds into your work. You obviously you're designing more characters and things, but you design a lot of things in your illustration or your concept art and things like that. You're designing worlds. You're designing um, you know forestry or any kind of you could do a sci-fi kind of thing if you're into that kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
but it takes a bit of design and learning that kind of thing, and not just your painting skills as well.
Hmm.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, illustration. I think all illustration kind of has inherently some sort of design sense, like all
Mm.
types of design. Like, I mean, all types of illustration have some sense of design. Whether you're composing an image or if you're trying to design it so that people understand it better or it has more clarity. I think design is a huge part about any illustration, and I consider character art and character design to be just a part of that. It's just one type. Um, I think it's very related to everything else as well. If you're designing a comic book layout, it's just as much of a pain to figure that out as it is to figure out a magazine article
Mm.
um, or anything else really that has to be looked at by another person and convey information. So, I agree. I think design is pretty universal.
Mm.
It's universally important through illustration.
Awesome. So you tell me a little bit about your process about creating a character.
Hmm. Let's see. Where do I start? Well, it kind of changes depending on the assignment,
Mm.
and I think my process for designing something for like an animation is different from something I would design for a video game or an advertisement or something like that. But I think at the core of it, I start with the functionality of what I'm doing, like who's the audience, who's going to see this, and then I don't necessarily cater to the audience, but it's more about making it understandable for the audience and also making it compelling for the audience. So I think that's where I try and start. And I mean, for me especially, I like to focus on the ideas a lot. I like to focus on having a strong idea and then kind of making my design decisions kind of revolve around that. And it will always kind of return to that. So that's where I start. Um, and then from there, I'll do basically whatever usually an art director is asking me to do. So it can be thumbnails or something like that, or it can be hey, can you take this character and redesign it to look like a little bit more like this? And I'll be like, well, so like whenever an art director asks me a question like that, I'll look to the root of what they're actually trying to ask me, like, why do you want it to look like this?
Mm.
And then that helps inform my decisions a lot. So that's kind of how I start.
Awesome. Yeah. For me, I have a bit of a process. Sometimes, yeah, obviously, like you're saying before, it depends on the project, um,
Hmm.
and what I'm designing the character for. For this, I'm designing the character for the children's book. Um,
Hmm.
So obviously I want it to be a kid-friendly design, and also I'm also thinking, because I've got to paint this over and over again, I don't want it to be like too hyper realistic or too kind of too much going on with the character, you know.
Sure.
Just want him to be a little bit more simple than um, highly detailed hedgehog in there, and also give him, that personality as well. It's great to capture the character's personality in a pose, which is it's such a hard thing to do that as well. Um, like if your character's sleepy, you gotta try and create him that he looks really sleepy,
Hmm.
and yeah.
Go from there. Yeah, yeah, for instance, if the audience is children's book,
Mm.
so for me, I would put a lot of emphasis on the expression of the characters, because children respond very well to clear expression and things like that, and bright colors. But also, it's what I also ask about. What do the characters represent in the story I'm trying to convey? So if it's a children's book about friendship, or if it's about jealousy or whatever it is, I try and design the characters to sort of sell that idea a little bit better. So so usually if the characters are in confrontation with one another, if one's a protagonist and an antagonist, I look at the story and I read it very thoroughly, and I try and I'll ask the writers, I'll ask whoever's kind of directing the production to kind of break down what that character means to them in a way. Like, the if the main character kind of represents sort of hope, and the villain sort of represents despair, how do you convey that visually?
Mm.
So that's kind of how I like to approach a problem, as far as like the characters, breaking them down into sort of elements that I can make decisions around.
Mm.
Yeah, a clear idea that I can revolve all my decisions around, and then it becomes difficult, honestly, for the art director to um, uh, necessarily disagree with me if I have a case, because I can be like, well, this is my case, I'm making a case for why I'm designing it this way, and usually if I do my job well, then um, it conveys that properly, and then the art director will be on board with me. So that's usually what I'm trying to do is, if I'm convincing an art director about my work, I try and build up a case for what my decisions are.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah, well, you've got to have like a reason for doing things. Like, you can't just willy nilly make something random looking, because you've got to have your reasons why he looks like that, why he might be wearing a satchel, or why he's wearing that kind of clothing. It tells the whole story about that character.
Yep.
And that you got to, obviously you have to go a bit further and convince people um, why you did this, and get them on board with your idea, kind of a thing. Um, for me, I'm just I'm working with me, so I don't really have to go to my bosses and be like, oh, you know,
In a lot of ways, it's harder for me.
mm,
It's harder for me to work by myself because I don't have somebody, giving me any direction. It's all my direction. Um,
mm.
but yeah, I don't know. Do you find it easier to work off your own ideas rather than the ideas of other people?
For me, it's definitely easier. But I mean, I can work off the ideas of other people if I needed to.
Hmm.
But sometimes their projects might not be for me. Sometimes um, just not every ideas I can create that great of what they see in their head. But you get
Yeah.
yeah, you got to give it your best shot, and just yeah. I mean, I did a children's book cover for someone, and I think she didn't like really fully know what she was looking for. She just had a kind of an idea of what she wanted, and then from there I kind of created my own idea, and I convinced her that that was the good one. It was like I had these three ideas. I knew that idea was going to be the one, and by the start of the meeting, she was like, "That's the idea," and we both agreed on that first idea I did. It was just, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it was
it can
awesome.
be a labor.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah, if the other person doesn't quite have a clear idea in their own mind, and you have to convince them, then you do a lot of trial and error sometimes.
Mm.
But sometimes in those cases, if I can make a strong enough case, then it's enough for me to, give them a proposal, a strong idea, and a strong proposal. And if they disagree with it, then at least then they would disagree with it strongly, and they'll have some clear opinion about something. And that's at least the jumping off point for me. So usually even then, the work it doesn't go to waste even if I'm off the mark. At least there's a better sense of like where the project is going. Yeah.
So you worked on Spyro?
I did.
Awesome.
Spyro the Reignited, not the original.
Yeah.
The Reignited trilogy.
Yeah. That Spyro's my favorite kind of game as a kid. It'd been awesome to work on that.
Ah. So did you like the Reignited trilogy? Not to put you on the spot. Did you play it?
I haven't played it yet. I actually I don't really have a PS4 or
That's okay, me either. I haven't played the game either.
I don't get time for that kind of stuff at the moment.
It's difficult to play those kind of games. Yeah, I play games, but very like not involved. Like Spyro's a pretty involving game. I would need to sit down and play it for like a few hours. Even though I do that, but yeah, I guess it's yeah, Spyro. It's more of a commitment, I think, than the kind of games I play.
I've played a few hours of it, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But how did you get a chance to work on that?
How did I get a chance to work on it? I was contacted by Toys for Bob. I think they had seen my work from something else, probably another game that I had. But I think they found me through I think it was my Instagram, and they contacted me on my email, and they would be like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" And I was like, "What's the project?" And they were like, "Spyro," and I was pretty excited about it because not just because it was Spyro, but because I was actually working with a lot of artists that I had worked with previously on other projects, like from several different games that I had worked on. So for me, it was like, oh, the gang's all back together, So that was a really cool experience to be able to work on something. It was like we weren't all in the same room. I was working on it remotely, but it was still a collaboration between myself and a bunch of artists I'd worked with already. So I really appreciated that. I appreciated that they asked me to do it, and also, the job was draw like as many dragons as you can. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. That's like probably one of my top 5 things to draw. So I was definitely on board.
Yeah, dragons is definitely up there for me. I've always, drawn dragons and dinosaurs since I was a kid, and those are my favorite things to draw.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, dinosaurs definitely. Yeah, definitely my interest in dragons stems from my interest in natural, in the natural sciences, and so it comes from a love for dinosaurs. I have a bunch of reptiles as pets, so I'm really into things with scales. Even though dinosaurs all have feathers now, a lot of them that were cool to me. They're still cool. I think they're actually way cooler now that they have feathers. But I've been always attracted to just giant reptilian animals.
Cool. So you've worked in studio?
No, I work from home. I have a studio kind of at home. I have my desk and it's kind of just a sectioned off part of the living room. Um, and I don't really need a lot of space for what I do. So, yeah, I just work from home
Yeah.
on everything I do.
I was asking, have you ever worked in studio?
Oh, have I ever worked in a studio? Oh, yeah. Actually, I mean, I worked in studios. This is actually my first time doing. I've only been doing freelance for a year. I was working before that. I was working in the studio since 2006 when I was working at Turbine, and I was just jumping from studio to studio since then. So I was working usually in a game studio, um, and then on the side I might have been doing some projects, some freelance, but not entirely. So I've only been doing freelance for the past year and a half ish. Not even a year and a half, like less than a year and a half, year and a quarter maybe.
Awesome.
I started like November of like last year. Yeah.
Do you ever miss it, or do you miss
Studio life?
Yeah.
I think parts of it for sure. I miss um, it's and when you're working by yourself and you're your own producer and manager and art team, it's a little bit more. It's definitely more pressure on myself to take charge of my schedule, take charge of my finances, take charge of a lot more things. So it's a lot more responsibility, I think. So I do miss a little bit of that relief that comes from like all those other things. Like I have to pay for my health insurance. I don't get it from a company anymore. So there's definitely like a lot of different. Like my taxes are different. The people I work with, the way I work with them is different. I'm never in the same room with them usually. I mean, sometimes I am, but sometimes I'll get invited to a studio to check it out and then go back and work remotely. But for the most part, unless I'm doing this, I'm doing Skype conversations or just by email. So there's an amount of human interaction that I miss. I miss I miss a lot of perks. I miss free food. I miss things like that. I miss conversations with human beings sometimes. But I'm pretty solo. Like I'm not really that sociable. And I'll also do things outside of work that give me a social outlet. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I'm much more accountable for myself, and it's not necessarily. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good that I have to be more accountable. It's just obviously I miss it. It's just like you get it. It's just like you get new responsibilities and you miss the life that you had where you did not have those responsibilities, obviously. But I think for me, it's really important. So I'm still doing it.
Do you think it's was it good though? Moving from studio to freelance, or fully freelance?
For me, I mean, I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I just haven't had I just haven't had the courage to do it. And so then I was after my last project, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna get a lot of chances to try and do this again. So now I'm like, I want to do it. And it's definitely easier for me to do it now that I've worked for a bunch of studios and I've built up some reputation and portfolio and some projects under my belt. So it's not like I'm working in a vacuum. People can look me up and they can see what I've worked on. So it's not difficult for me to it's not like I'm jumping into freelance without some preparation. Otherwise it would have been harder to start freelance and then kind of work myself into a studio rather than the reverse. I think I appreciate all the time I had working in studios, and then it also gave me tons of experience working with other human beings, like how to communicate with other people and how to get my ideas across. So I don't think I could have really done this the way I'm doing it now unless I had worked in studios before. So yeah, I definitely appreciate all my time I've had in studios, but I think I really needed to do it. So I eventually just made the move and started doing it, and now I work in my pajamas.
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a plus of working in freelance. For sure. Definitely working from home that's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, are you on your own tight schedule, or are you just like kind of?
That's all. That's another thing is, you know, I'm not getting paid unless I'm working.
Mm,
So, every hour counts. My time is precious. So, and I feel I can feel the edge of that. So, if I have a deadline, it's up to me to arrange my own time so that I get it done in time. Um, I mean, obviously, if I get slow feedback or something, then that's on the producers, or the art director. But I'm managing my own time, and it's not like anyone's really telling me to do that. It's just what I have to do. So it used to be that I would have a producer and they'd be able to tell me very specific deadlines, or there would be some sort of steps or progress. Um, but now it's just like I just do the work and then I submit it in a couple days, and then I get feedback, and then I resubmit it in a couple days. Um, and I mean, it definitely like my sleep schedule is not a normal. I mean, that's another benefit of freelance. My kind of sleep schedule is not normal. I do not wake up early. I have like crazy hours, so definitely helps me be on my own time. Um, but the disadvantage is that it's harder to manage at that time. So it's definitely a balance. It's a lot of balance, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah, it is a balancing thing, you know. Um, I I I I'm on a kind of schedule per se, you know. I get up um early-ish, but before I'm usually working before 9, and like to
Hmm.
work that way. Start from 9 and keep working. And obviously sometimes I'm up till late, doing work. Yeah, it all
Hmm.
depends. Cause I've also got a just a standard job at the moment. Um,
Hmm.
at the moment it's just casual, so it's just that can
Also, you have
be.
kids, right? So you're on their
Mm,
schedule a little bit too, right?
yes, I have a little daughter, 7 months as well, so I also have to deal with her schedule too. So sometimes it's better for me to just work when she's asleep. Um, Other times I can get away with working when she's awake. It depends on, what I
Yeah, it
can,
can be distracting.
yeah, yeah, they are
I've heard.
distracting. Yeah, but yeah, sometimes I can just sit her down in a chair and she's quite happy just playing there for a couple hours or something until she gets hungry. Um,
Yep.
but sometimes she's just, always wanting attention and every little thing is annoying. Um, so it gets a bit hectic trying to get my stuff done and dealing with that, but it can be done. I'm
Where there's a will, there's a way.
exactly. I'm up for the challenge. I'm not gonna give up. I've had so many knockbacks from it. Not just from
Sure.
having kids, just from other things in general. Having to work to pay the bills and um, other things. They get to me. They're like, oh, you have to do this. This is taking time away from your
Sure.
art. But I'm up
Yeah.
for the challenge. I'm still at it. I'm still doing this. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Life
not.
gets in the way.
Mm,
It's hard. I mean, like even with my schedule, it's like now that I'm home all the time, it's like now I see friends less.
mm.
I don't see people as much because I have to intentionally leave my house, or my apartment, I should say. It's so it's a yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to be a complete recluse, so I try and make time to see people. And I think it's good for me mentally, probably. But yeah, juggling, that is pretty tough for me.
Mm.
Fortunately, I live with my partner, so she keeps me company as well. But yeah, life, and I'm trying to I try and make time for her as well. So
Mm.
everything is everything is difficult. If it was up to me, I would just be drawing all the time, maybe, or playing video games and drawing. But I don't think that's 100% healthy for me. So
Mm. Exactly. If I could, I would draw like 24/7. But I have to eat. I have to sleep,
yeah, yeah,
and
life, yeah, the
yeah.
the whole biological commitments,
Mm.
exercise. I'm falling behind on that recently.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you do like much exercise and things in your schedule?
Physical exercise? Well, I mean, I actually I practice dancing a lot. I'm actually going to be dancing later today.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so that it gets me out of the house and it gets me moving. You know, I go to dance clubs and studios and things like that to move around, and that keeps me active. You know, and it's a different creative process, I would say, than drawing. Very different, but um, I think they kind of feed off of each other a little bit, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, so it's very difficult for me to just do repetitive things. It's very hard for me to just go jogging or do reps in a gym. So, you know, at least dancing gives me some way to be like mentally involved. You know, otherwise it'd be very boring for me. I can't like listen to an audiobook and do reps. It's very difficult for me to do that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I get bored of like doing, exercise like, push-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'd rather
I
do
do
it.
yeah, I do yoga. I do try and
I,
do as much stretching
mm,
as possible because that does affect my artwork. That directly affects my artwork. Like if my shoulders are messed up, I don't want that to happen. My
yeah,
neck is
yeah,
messed up. Yeah. So I do try and keep on top of that.
awesome. Yeah. I don't do a lot of that stuff, but I just kind of go for walks, with my little family, and um, yeah. And there's other things to do, like I have to go do grocery shopping and things like that. So I'll probably have to do it today. Go grocery shopping and other things. Yeah.
We just had a massive snowstorm come through Seattle, so it's been kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like it's outside is completely white. So I can't, we had to do our shopping like yesterday.
Mm.
Right now we're just like trapped in the apartment. So,
Oh dang. Yeah, it's nice and it's warm here.
yeah, it's how warm is it in New Zealand
It's
right now?
don't know. It's probably about 20ish.
20ish degrees. Oh, Celsius.
Yeah, Celsius.
It's probably I don't know. It's probably like 20ish Fahrenheit outside right now.
It says it's 16
16. Okay.
degrees,
It's
which
kind of cool. Isn't that's cold? It's a little cold.
but it's getting to at the moment between 24 and 30. Oh
Mm.
yeah, it's somewhere around 11 to 16 degrees at the moment.
Mm.
That's what it says.
Oh, right, because you're
But
like you're very early for you.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, during the day, yeah, it's early here at the moment, but during the day it gets to about 20,
Mm.
25, 30 at the moment with summer. And that's really hot for us. Usually we get to about 27 at the max, 28 at the max, but now we're getting to like 30s this year.
That's pretty high. I've
Um,
only been I've been getting adjusted to the Celsius scale now. I'm as an American,
yeah,
I mean as a United States American, I should we're all in Fahrenheit, but I'm starting to get used to Celsius now because I'm taking care of these reptiles, and a lot of their instruments are in Celsius.
oh yeah,
So I'm just now like figuring out like what 30 degrees Celsius means in Fahrenheit for me.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I think uh, I think I would like to take a trip to New Zealand one day because it looks like a very beautiful place.
mm.
Have you ever gone to Weta or anything like that? Or I'm
Yeah,
pretty jealous of the fact that Weta's over there.
I've been to Weta. They have a like little gallery tour that you can go on. That
That's great.
they basically just have all their old artwork and sculptures and things that um they didn't want to dispose of because most
Hmm.
the studio work they usually have to dispose of anything towards the movie so that things don't get out in the world before the movie gets out, kind of a
That's
thing.
so sad.
So they made a whole gallery of it where they just show all their works that they worked on for those movies. So you've got things like Lord of the Rings. Um, they recently worked on Ghost in the Shell. Some of Ghost in the Shell was their latest. Um,
Do you have any sculptures for that? Like any
um,
busts?
I'm not sure. Because it's recent, I haven't seen that kind of stuff. If they've got any busts
Oh,
or
okay. Oh.
anything there, but yeah, I went like maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Mm.
To it. But they had lots of like Lord of the Rings works and um, the Hobbit and things like that.
King Kong.
Yeah, King Kong. They had King Kong. Yeah, they've worked on so much. It's really cool, and I also got to meet one of one of the directors, I think, of the studio. Because he he talked with Bobby Chio. He did an interview with Bobby Chio, and then the next day we had this event thing that he was at,
Mm.
and I was just talking to him about that. Just like you did an interview with Bobby Chio last night. And I was like, yeah, that was awesome. He really enjoyed that.
I'm gonna have a. I'm actually. I'm doing an interview with Bobby in I think a week.
Awesome.
Actually, I'm gonna be talking on his channel. I don't know what he wants to talk to me about, but I'm pretty excited. I really admire a lot of the work he does too. Not just his illustrations, which are great, but I really like the whole thing he's doing with Imaginism and teaching and things like that. Um, I was just getting into teaching this past year, and yeah, it's not easy, but it's
Mm.
very fun, and teaches. When teaching other people, it like teaches yourself things. So, I look up to people like Bobby too, because um, I think he's a really great teacher too, and he's a great motivator with his YouTubes. So.
Awesome. Yeah, he's awesome to learn from. I always watch all his videos, so I'll be checking out your video when it comes out as well. Um,
Mm.
Always keeping up with his
Thank
work, and yep.
Yeah, I like his process. He shows his process too, where he's doing like 3D sculpts and painting over them real quick.
Mm.
It's really fast production. You know, when I think about like how the speed of how much time that saves, I'm like, yeah, I should be doing that.
Awesome. Well, like some people, they do these speed paints and things, but they don't actually see like how much time it actually took to do it.
Yeah,
Because
true.
for me, this is a recording, so you know, this takes me, in all actual recording time is about 3 hours, three
Mm.
4 hours per half usually. Depends on yeah, it obviously depends on the piece. Um, but that means a piece can take me up to 6 hours. Um, but that's not all. It takes me a lot of process work. There's also sometimes I have to go online to find more reference or
Mm.
some way of painting things. Like for this, I've been figuring out how to paint grass because I'm still, after years of painting grass, I'm still trying to figure it out. It's
Hmm.
there's always something new. I mean, I'm dealing with this being a nighttime scene, so I'm dealing with that as well. So how there's not a lot of tutorials out there of how to paint grass at nighttime.
Yeah, a lot of very specific problem solving. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
illustration is basically that. It's just back to back
Hmm.
problem solving. It's like, oh, I have to draw this character in this pose. Now do it at like sunset with a jeep behind it with its headlights on, and then it's like, oh, nobody has any photo reference of what this looks like. So then yeah, I understand that problem.
Hmm.
It's a very illustrator problem.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of other things that I have to do as well, not just recording my illustration. There's yeah, also the video editing as well. So there's a few hours there sometimes,
Right.
depending on
Right.
the video. Usually, I can just put it on and then just let it load, do other stuff, things like that. Sometimes, um, I've recently just upgraded computer,
Hmm.
so I've also had to work out other softwares that I can use because I can't have the other softwares like I had
The old
CS.
stuff.
Yeah, I've just got Creative Cloud now for Photoshop.
Hmm.
I used to be using
Oh yeah, yeah.
CS6. I actually saw that you can actually still buy CS6,
Mm.
and it's not too expensive. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a real pain. I had to do the same thing when I got an upgrade. I had to like I was running a version of Photoshop that did not need Creative Cloud. I was running
Mm,
like Microsoft licenses that were now expired all of a sudden because I had a new computer, so I had to actually buy those licenses, which is a real pain. Uh, yeah, they really know how to nickel and dime you nowadays with these programs that they know that you rely on. Um,
yeah.
it's a kind of a pain because everybody pretty much wants free stuff, and then and then they're like, okay, you can have it for free a little bit, but
Mm,
we won't give you everything. So it's like you have to pay these full price for things that normally people were ripping offline or something like that. They were just stealing them off the internet
mm,
and buying them. So I think it's really good for companies like that, for Adobe, that they figured it out. But man, it's sorry to see that time go. um, I think it's actually easier now than ever to use Creative Cloud for new artists to kind of like get on board with it. Um, with art programs that were otherwise, like, some of those programs were like $200, $300. And, it's very difficult for a new artist to make that much of an investment. But I think the fact that you can just pay month to month, you can at least like have some time to play with it.
mm.
I think it's a really good business model. I'm sad to see that I can't use my old versions, but or maybe I can, I don't know. But they don't have all the full suite of features, so it's not like I would use them anyway. Because
Yeah.
that's how much of an industry standard Adobe is.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I do appreciate it. I do appreciate the new business model, the Creative Cloud model.
Yeah, it's definitely, it can be more affordable for people, um, because not everyone has the money to spend $700 or whatever it is to buy the actual product of the Creative Cloud. Because there used to be something like that for some of the products. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, not everyone has that kind of money to spend, but it's more affordable for people, 20, $30 a month, somewhere around
Hmm.
there, usually, depending on what you get, if you just get Photoshop. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting Photoshop. I also get Lightroom, which I never use, and some other free trials and stuff. But yeah, I just use kind of Creative Cloud now. But I used to have InDesign and Illustrator. Now I don't, so I've got to either turn on my old computer to use Illustrator if I need it, or find another way to do that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Well, we'll leave. I'll ask one more question, and then
Sure.
that'll be it. So do you keep a sketchbook?
Whew, you put me on the spot because no, I don't right now.
Oh,
I need
good.
to keep a sketchbook, but
Mm,
and I do sketch, but now that I don't leave my apartment, I don't really need a sketchbook because I just draw on my computer, which is bad. I should have a sketchbook. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of sketchbooks, but a lot of them are like half filled. A lot of
mm,
them are like started and not finished. So usually when I have the compulsion to draw with analog media with like a real pencil and eraser, then I'll crack one of those open, and or if I'm on a trip, I'll take a sketchbook. But otherwise, I do a lot of my sketching on the computer, unfortunately, because I do want to not be doing that all the times. I want to be able to draw with a pencil, late in life. I don't want to have to
mm.
be me married entirely to the computer. And like a lot of my skills still come from traditional drawing traditionally.
Yeah.
I can't speak. Drawing traditionally. So I think it's really important to keep doing that to maintain my skill level. So I still want to, I actually, once in a blue moon, I still go figure drawing, and I still go draw in cafes because I still think that's really important to keep my skills up. Or I'll go to the zoo, and I'll still draw. You know,
Awesome.
And if I can't do any of that, then I'll just sit at my computer and sketch. And I think that's still really important
Awesome.
for sure. Do you
Is
do you have a sketchbook? Do you draw constantly?
I
Are
do
you one of
have a
those people?
sketchbook, but it does get quite challenging to have time to sketch in it. I've got these projects to do, um, and I've at times it's like I've got to get this project done. That's kind of more important than sketching, you know, but I try and I've tried that. This year I was supposed to every night at about 9 p.m. do sketching
Hmm.
in my sketchbook.
That's really good. I don't have any set time
But
to draw. I wish
yeah,
I did.
it is a hard thing to do. I don't always do it, but I'm trying to do it at least. If I do it at least twice a week, um, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So I got to keep going with that. But yeah, I bring my sketchbook to work, so sometimes I get a break or something, where I get to sketch. So I usually sketch outdoors with that, doing what I want. Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I just you know, if I spend a whole day working and stuff at home, then it's really easy just to turn everything off and start sketching at 9 p.m. But it's hard when it's like work, and then I've got to work on this stuff, and then by then it's 10, 11 o'clock at night. I kind of gotta
Make
go
the
to
time.
bed.
Yeah.
Gotta go to bed for the next day to get more stuff done tomorrow. You know.
Are you like a morning person? Do you operate well in the morning?
Yeah, I would say so. You know.
I know a lot of people like I mean like we are just talking about Bobby. Bobby has like a really good life schedule. Like he wakes up, practices in the morning, and then goes on his thing, and he'll do warm ups and things like that, which I
Mm,
really admire. So I mean, I really want to incorporate some of that into my own life too. Maybe have like a disciplined time where I'm like drawing something that's not for work. You know, even though I do this for a living, it's still even doing it for a living, I still need to be drawing outside of that. You know,
mm,
I can't just be working on only other people's projects. I want to be I want to be able to show people my work. If everything I do is for other people, number one, none of it belongs to me. But number two, I can't show anybody because all
mm.
of it's NDA, or if it's um, just not, it's not. I'm not allowed to show it. So I'd rather still have something I can show people. And yeah, until that's because some I have projects. I would say about like 80% of my artwork is not visible to the public, which is sad. So it's like I need to still be drawing on my own for sure. And also it's even though it feels like I'm getting practice doing uh, art assignments. If I'm drawing for work, it's like, oh, I'd be getting enough practice, right? But I still, even then, it still doesn't feel like it's enough. I still feel like I still need to be practicing. So when I have the time, I still definitely try and work on my own projects. So it's not just for other people. So it's also for me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's the reason why you should work is it's for you.
Exactly.
Mm. Awesome. Well, that's been Devon today. Devon Cady-lee. Awesome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks everyone for checking this out. Whether you watch this on Twitch or you check this out on YouTube, thank you guys. Please do like, share, subscribe on my YouTube. Um, yeah, check out my Twitch. I do stream on there every now and again. It does play up, so give me a chance. I do try and stream if I can, but sometimes it does play up, and it's better just to record it and put it on YouTube. Um, yeah, awesome. Anything else?
Uh, keep drawing, everybody.
Awesome. Keep drawing. We'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.